When it comes to travel right now, the chatter is that Vietnam is the next big thing. Cheaper than Thailand, more authentic, and better value. I'm Cal, I've lived in Thailand for over 11 years, and I've visited Vietnam nearly a dozen times. And in this video, we're gonna compare the metropolis of each country, Bangkok and Ho Chi Minh City. And we'll answer one key question. Whether you're planning a holiday or the next stage of your life, which of these cities offers better value for you in 2026? We'll start with cost because, let's be honest, this is what most people focus on first. And there's no real competition here. Vietnam is cheaper, but not by nearly as much as you'd expect, and the gap is closing quickly. In the past 2 years, tourism in Vietnam has exploded, and prices have climbed right along with it. And you can see it in real time. Supply simply hasn't kept pace with the demand, and prices have surged. And when I checked, you can find very similar rooms in Bangkok at approximately the same price. With food, you find a very similar situation. A banh mi sandwich in Ho Chi Minh might run you 30,000 Vietnamese dong, while the famous pho will cost between 40 and 50,000. These are very affordable prices, but in Bangkok, you can find a pad thai or curry at a local restaurant or shop for around 50 to 60 baht. It's a little bit more expensive, but we are talking about a difference of between 50 cents and $1. And that's because although Bangkok can often feel far more expensive, at a local level, the prices are remarkably similar. Bangkok runs on two very established economies. One that caters to local budgets and tastes, the other a tourism and luxury-oriented market, which is the product of 30 years of industry development. And when it comes to both averages and perceptions, this skews all the numbers. Whether it's hotels, condos, fine dining, or nightlife, average costs are pulled up by the luxury and high-end tourism economy. Rent is the clearest example. Bangkok simply has more new luxury builds with rooftop infinity pools at extremely high prices per square meter. But if you opt for a slightly older, low-rise building, the prices suddenly drop significantly. The difference isn't that Bangkok necessarily costs a lot more. It simply has more on offer at the upper end of the market, and that extends beyond the condo industry. There's more luxury hotels, international restaurants, and high-end nightlife. That range is generally one of Bangkok's strengths. There's something at every price point, but it also makes it very easy to spend more than you meant to, as it's tempting to stop off at a mid-range restaurant for a 200 baht meal or grab a 160 baht iced cappuccino. The sheer prevalence of higher-priced options means you're likely to spend more money. Conversely, Ho Chi Minh is still in an earlier phase of development, with fewer luxury hotels, condos, or international restaurants. It's still a far more locally oriented economy, and that means you don't find as many situations where you're likely to spend more money. But of course, with the surge in tourism, that's changing very quickly as the city develops its own split economy. The lower-priced local options never truly go away. They just become less obvious and front and center, especially if you happen to be living or staying in a tourism or expat-oriented area. Now, with all that being said, there is one area where you'll find a big price gap: alcohol. In Vietnam, a beer from 7-Eleven will cost around 18,000 Vietnamese dong, while the same beer will run around 50 baht in Thailand, which is more than double the price. And once you hit the bars and nightlife venues, that gap widens. A roadside beer at Bui Vien Walking Street in Ho Chi Minh can cost as little as 25,000 dong. Bangkok's closest equivalent there is Khao San Road, where it'll cost around 120 baht. And prices climb significantly at higher-end venues like the Sky Bars. But one pattern remains consistent. When it comes to basic needs like housing and food, both cities can be very affordable, and prices climb significantly once you step into the entertainment, nightlife, and luxury markets. Now, we'll give the price edge to Vietnam, but the gap isn't nearly as big as some online commentary may have you believe. And the whole price comparison touches on a massive difference between the two cities. Bangkok has emerged as a global metropolis, and with that, you'll find many different layers of experience. In central Bangkok, you have easy access to high-end shopping malls, dining experiences, rooftop bars, and excellent infrastructure. You essentially have a world-class lifestyle on offer at far more affordable prices. Ho Chi Minh is starting to build the same, and within 10 years, you'll probably find a convergence between the two cities. But for now, it's still a much smaller, less visible slice of the overall pie. And this one really comes down to a matter of preference, because all the layers of experience, conveniences, and luxury options available here in Bangkok can also make it feel less authentic. As cities around the world globalize, they start to resemble each other with the same polished brands and infrastructure. And that permeates into the culture. As more sky bars and high-end venues open up, more people aspire to that lifestyle. The foot traffic at local markets thins and whole areas change and gentrify. Now, whether this is good or bad really comes down to your individual preferences. Convenience and layers of experience, often at higher price points, or lower prices and local authenticity that often comes with a little bit more friction and less comfort. And that's one of Ho Chi Minh's core appeals in 2026. The city still offers a very local experience, which is exactly what many travelers are looking for. Small restaurants and cafes, street-side vendors, and fewer temptations or distractions to pull you back into the Western world. All while the cafe scene is world-class in its own right, because that is part of the local culture. But before you make a decision, there's an even bigger gap that you need to be aware of. Before we get to that, figuring out which environment you really prefer is a matter of testing them both out. And when you visit, you'll need data. I recommend the Saily eSIM app, especially for regional plans. The setup's straightforward. You choose a data package before your flight, install the eSIM, and it activates automatically once you arrive, so you're connected as soon as you land. You keep your home number active for calls, texts, and two-factor codes, while Saily handles your data so you avoid expensive roaming charges. And the regional plan is the real benefit here. It covers multiple countries on one plan, so you're not switching SIM cards every time you cross a border, which is perfect for testing out both Thailand and Vietnam with minimal hassle. If you want to try Saily, there's a link in the description, and you can use the coupon code BangkokGuide for a 15% discount. And once you're on the ground testing out both countries, you'll probably notice the single biggest difference that defines your day-to-day life. Because the single biggest gap is infrastructure. Bangkok has the BTS, the MRT, and the airport rail link, a mature multi-line rail network built out over decades covering most of the city. Conversely, Ho Chi Minh opened its first metro line at the end of 2024 with only a single, relatively limited corridor. And the gap really goes beyond trains because it's more about daily friction. Both cities suffer from dense traffic, but whether you opt for public transportation or simply go for a walk, Bangkok has built an infrastructure system that allows visitors and residents to bypass much of the most annoying friction. It's easy to hop on the train, exit, and walk along the skywalks and overpasses. And this simply isn't the case in Ho Chi Minh. In District 1, you often encounter one busy intersection after the next, crossing the street into oncoming traffic that rarely follows the traffic laws cleanly. And that does start to get to you quite quickly. Now, don't get me wrong, because you still definitely get poor infrastructure and choppy sidewalks in many areas in Bangkok. But the central core is very convenient, and it's all generally connected to a broader mall infrastructure throughout the city. Each neighborhood tends to be anchored by a major mall, which is typically attached to the train system. These serve as air-conditioned escapes from the heat, rain, and chaos, with excellent food courts that serve as social hubs at affordable prices. The longer you stay in the city, the more you start to appreciate the integrated infrastructure, which pairs transportation with convenience. And of course, there are the parks. Right now I'm at Benjikiti Forest Park here in central Bangkok, and they serve as additional oases. They're beautifully designed, clean, safe, and family friendly. Ho Chi Minh has parks too, but they aren't very well maintained, and unfortunately, they're a bit of a magnet for scammers and hustlers. On my most recent trip to Ho Chi Minh, nearly every time I sat down, somebody approached me trying to sell me something, clean my shoes, or run a hustle. But this points to another real difference between the cities in 2026. the prevalence of scams. Bangkok's definitely famous for its fair share of hustles, but they're typically very localized to specific tourist hotspots around the Grand Palace, Khao San Road, or between Nana and Asok in Sukhumvit. While the rest of the city, including central areas like Siam, Phrom Phong, Sathorn, are relatively scam-free. In Ho Chi Minh, the scams aren't nearly as localized. They saturate nearly the entire District 1 area. If you look like me, you'll get stopped by somebody on almost every street corner, or you'll have people roll up next to you on motorbikes, even on quiet side streets. You can avoid the scams fairly easily by simply ignoring them and walking away, but it definitely adds to a feeling of overall friction in the city. But there's one final thing you need to consider, and if you're planning to actually make a move, it's a big one: visas. This is where Thailand pulls clearly ahead with a wide range of options: traditional non-O retirement, the 5-year destination Thailand visa, the LTR for high earners, or the pay-to-stay elite card. Conversely, most expats in Vietnam rely on tourist e-visas, which require a border run and reset every 90 days, and that can get tiresome. But on the flip side, Vietnam has a far lower barrier to entry, as e-visas are typically granted back-to-back without issue. This used to be true in Thailand too, but recent crackdowns mean that you can't actually stay in Thailand long-term without a proper visa. And that requires proof of savings or income and far more administrative hurdles. So if you simply want to hop on a plane and test out life, Vietnam is far easier right now. So let's step back and assess which city is better for you in 2026. Choose Bangkok if you want infrastructure that lets you engineer a calm, low-friction daily life with world-class nightlife and dining with real depth. But Ho Chi Minh has its charms, and you should choose it if you want a city that is cheaper and you prefer raw authenticity and street-level energy. It's earlier in its development, but for some people, that rougher, realer version is the appeal. And it's changing fast, so there's a case for seeing it now. Now, I've currently been living in Bangkok for over 11 years, so I probably am a little bit biased on this one, but it's been a setup that I appreciate and has worked well for me. But let us know in the comment sections, which one would you prefer and what factors are most important to you? I'll see you next time. Have a great day.